Hey guys, as the year comes to an end, I decided to make a list of 5 books that I definitely would recommend to everyone. It doesn't matter what kind of books you read for the year 2024. I love reading books. I'm an avid book learner and a reader. Unfortunately, this year was really intense and hectic. I didn't really get a chance to read too many books. So in today's video, I'll be talking about these books and giving a concise information from them. What I learned, what I liked, maybe something what I really didn't like. Maybe there might not be anything at all. Now, the first book is written by Morgan Housel. I hope I'm saying that right. And it's called Psychology of Money. And I'm just going to zoom that in. Many people have told me about this book and it had come up on my recommended section numerous times on Goodreads or just even online. Now, it's a short, concise book. The amount of pages that in the book are literally 238 pages. Now, I bought this book in a really good time because my partner and I had just bought a house for the first time and our finances had combined and we had to be really stringent, really disciplined with money as well. And don't get me wrong, sometimes I feel like I can be quite erratic with money. And I think this book gave me a really good perspective about a lot of famous stories in the past where greed has become quite prevalent and how that can lead to some consequential outcomes and implications, and how also not having everything at the same time is okay as well. And to be grateful in that's a key takeaway that I really took from them. I mean, the subheading literally says timeless lessons on wealth, greed, and happiness. And I think there's obviously a common correlation between wealth and happiness. At least people think that is. And whether it be material wealth or physical wealth or mental wealth, I think there is link with happiness. We also don't want to rely completely on wealth to be happy. There's a lot of statistical and empirical evidence in here that's showcased through graphs and visual representations about the current world economy, the history of humans and how money was considered then and how far we've come and how we perceive money today. It talks a lot about privilege and people that actually have to earn money by themselves or with not that much of a help, and how people would perceive those things or how much respect they would put towards money, depending on how you've achieved it. Quotes from Napoleon and all the way from Warren Buffett. It's really embedded certain quotes and philosophical attributes in my mind, and it's really filtered the way I look at money. And yeah, great book. Really recommend reading that for 2024. The second book that I'll be talking about is called Nicolo Machiavelli's The Prince. It was in a journal or a journal of advice to a certain prominent figure, which was towards Lorenzo de' Medici. Medici was a statesman and a banker, and he was well known in Italy at that time. The Prince is a letter written to him, and basically Machiavelli is coming up from a perspective of someone who has had some experiences with power, which he did, and someone who's seen a lot of empires fall and risen, and how money and tyrannical power and also at the same time good power changes people. Now, the Prince has a lot of people think about the Prince and think about a lot of the things about Machiavelli. As soon as you think about it, there's a lot of negative connotations that arise, that he was just a power-hungry madman, which some of the things that he says in this book, it's quite interesting. And if you actually think about it, people at the top of the world and the big businessmen and the presidents and the prime ministers and the leaders of this world, there's a lot of attributes that Machiavelli talks about in The Prince that actually, when I look at these leaders, I'm like, geez, that actually resonates with what Machiavelli writes in The Prince. And there was a lot of things that I loved in this book. There's a few things that he also wrote that's a bit, barbaric and wouldn't fly in the world today. And that completely makes sense. I mean, it's a book written in like the 1600s or the 1500s, something like that, right? And yeah, it's a great book. I think power is great. I think power has a lot of negative connotations as well. I think power, in order to be a leader, you need to have some kind of power, and to use that power in a nice, smart manner is something that you need to, climb the hierarchy up, whether it be in work, life, or personal life, whatever have you. I really liked this book. It's a great book. It took me like 2 weeks to finish it. Third book is called The Sugar Book. Now, this is a documentary that I actually watched. It's from a guy who's from Melbourne, Australia. And it's written by Damon, Gameau. I hope I'm not butchering his name. For 60 days, he actually would test out a high sugar diet by consuming 40 teaspoons of sugar a day. Now, the reason it was 40 is because At that time when this book was written, he had done some studies and he said an average Australian consumes 40 teaspoons of sugar a day. In 1 teaspoon, there is 4.17 gram of sugar, if I'm correct. And yeah, this study was done like 2014. So I can't even imagine if probably the numbers have probably gone up. I wouldn't be surprised. So I don't know if anyone has seen Super Size Me, where that guy from America has McDonald's for 30 days straight, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and there's all these rules to it, and he just wanted to compare how his body was before the experiment and after the experiment. Think of it like the same kind of context and same framework. However, the difference is 60 days in this case. And yeah, there's so many crazy facts about sugar in this book that I didn't realize that it had, and the hidden sugars and the different types of sugars such as fructose, sucrose, and lactose. It really changed my perception about what I wanted to consume in my diet. And don't get me wrong, I kind of stuffed up. I went cold turkey just like this guy and stopped having sugar for like 2-3, maybe I think it was like 2-3 weeks in total. It wasn't the smartest way to do it. So even today, after I read this book and I've extracted all the wisdom from it and all the fears that I've seen happening in this book and the effects of it, I still have sugar. However, my consumption of sugar has reduced drastically. I would say probably like 5 to 10 teaspoons of sugar a day. There were graphs, there were statistics. He goes to the most diabetic town in Australia, not diabetic, but the most unhealthy town that consumes the most sugar in Australia, and he interviews people there, and their dental records are really bad, and all the kids, just the health consequences were really horrible. The documentary is called The Sugar Film, and then I bought the book as well, which had more information that was probably not covered in the documentary that much, and the book is called The Sugar Book, so highly recommend it. The fourth book I want to talk about is called The Almanack of Naval Ravikant. Naval Ravikant is an entrepreneur, a philosopher, and he's been on the Joe Rogan podcast, and that podcast is great. He's got his own, I guess, businesses and ventures around the world, and this book was, I guess, a compilation of a lot of his quotes and Twitter posts. He's quite famous on Twitter, and he quotes a lot of philosophers. I don't know which philosopher he quoted, but I know he loves this quote, and the quote is, "A healthy person wants 1,000 things. A sick person just wants one thing." So stuff like that, I think it's really fascinating, some of the things he says. Yes, it is not written by him. I actually bought the book and I later realized that it wasn't written by him. I ordered it. I thought it was actually written by him, but no, it was just a biography. It's just written by another one of his followers, obviously based on the approval of Naval. And yeah, I really love his work. I follow his work on Twitter as well a lot. And his, I guess, quotes have been really potent in a lot of my thinking in life, and just has changed my perception of what happiness should be. Okay, so the last book that is going to be Striking Thoughts by Bruce Lee, and this book is really good. I think I read it just at the start of the year when I started my new job as well as a teacher. How many pages is it? 207, 208 pages with just, I guess, paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs, sometimes a few pages of his thoughts, and that's all it is. It doesn't follow like a linear story where, hey, it's like an autobiography about his life or a biography about his life where he grew up. I'm sure there's books on that as well, but he was known to be quite disciplined, obviously, because martial arts, I mean, so much of it revolves around discipline and perseverance, something that you really need. His quotes just revolve around that, the way he talks and his perspectives in life and the aspect of balance and physical health and mental health and just happiness was really striking to me. You can see a trend in the books that I read. I feel like some people will be like, oh, all these books that you recommended kind of have the same kind of message or just by different people. Yes, you can make that argument, but you know, that's the books that I read, and I feel like those books have done a lot for me personally, and they bring me a lot of joy and they keep me content. And I feel like it's my job as a content creator to share these books with the people that watch my videos, especially if they're looking to attain some kind of, I don't know, wisdom in life, if that makes sense. It's an awesome book. I didn't realize how spiritual Bruce Lee was until I actually read this book. And it was just really fascinating to go inside his world at the time of when he was so famous and how he unfortunately succumbed to a very early death. It was just sad. It's not the most stereotypical image you think of someone who's like a philosopher, but at the same time, they're like a fighter. And yeah, it was awesome. Anyway, the Striking Thoughts by Bruce Lee, Wisdoms for Daily Living. And I just picked this up random days and I would just read certain parts of it. It was great. Thank you so much for watching, guys. That's the 5 books I would recommend for 2024. If you didn't like them, if you like them, if you want to know more other books that I read, chuck them in the comments below. I'll happily make more videos on them. I think books are a great doorway to wisdom and they helped me a lot personally. And I know a lot of people that they've helped as well. Whether it be fiction or non-fiction, even a fiction reader loves getting lost in the world of narrative writing. And I guess that's a good way for them to relax in life as well. But this is my recommendations for 2024. Thank you, guys.